time. That's what I keep on saying till I lose my mind. Feel like a man in a series, shine like a moon in the last sky. Can you believe it till the end of your life? Oh, we some backs into a room. That's enough for satisfaction. Ready, know how to have fun. No need of explanation. What's it worth of nothing? What's it worth of nothing? Surely that doesn't matter. Storyteller. What's it worth of nothing? What's it worth of nothing? Oh no, it doesn't matter. So we will never lose. That I didn't ever be taller. That she loves some another. Just cause you think you know me, don't try to change my mind. Happiness of seeing a newborn. All future that to be dream of. Everything will be judged by our moral life. Always some labels in the hands. Great papers that I need a fool. Don't mind if they make a mistake. Then goes all that hell alone. What's the worth of nothing? What's the worth of nothing? Please spread these words forever. Storyteller. What's the worth of nothing? What's the worth of nothing? How can it not matter? The soul we lost one by one. Look around, run around. There's nothing left to smile for. Look around, run around. There's nothing left to cry for. What's the worth of nothing? What's the worth of nothing? Don't ever let it fade out. Storyteller. What's the worth of nothing? What's the worth of nothing? There is no need for sorrow. Great songs will never die.
Yeah, no. I need more.
Get up to rock, get up to burn. Stand with the pride, ever feel your desire.
There we go. Don't want to turn it down. Gotta turn it down.
One day I noticed that my life was broken. It was not me who was controlling this body. Oh, I want to know what's really real to me before it vanishes like a wave. Get up to rock, get up to burn. Stand with the pride on me, the ways to make her. You must have heard it. Grasp the truth, hold it high, right?
Oh, okay. That's good.
You haven't heard it, girl. Don't be afraid to listen to your own heart. Big fast on it, that's my heartbeat in you.
Ha!
One day I noticed that the world was broken. Spoiled out hell we had.
Oh, okay. Was who I thought you were talking about. Alright. Yeah!
See this whole world falling blue. Not this space marched in black. Hey,
Ishiwatari, I think is the guy's name.
Don't be afraid to listen to your own heart. Beat the sonic that for heartbeat in you.
It'll keep going. Anyway, morning, folks. Howdy, howdy, howdy. I needed more energy. And fucking A, the Guilty Gear soundtracks can provide that. Ishiwatari is a lot of fun. See, just some shit I have elsewise won't even keep up either. Like, this is from Guilty Gear, but it's early Guilty Gear. It just doesn't have the same punch. Also early Guilty Gear. Just... What's this? It's my work. It's my work. There we go. Anyway, good morning. Cody here, IronVerse Comics. Another Coffee Cody and Comics. Trying to wake up. Still shaking off a lot of... shake it off, and you can take it from there. Let's see. What are we doing today? We are talking about heart, which is about all I got. And then the balance, all right? Yeah, balance is fine. I'm about twice as loud. Is there anything to show? Some less fun things to talk about, but we'll talk about them. I changed the title of this stream. It was far more dour and like that doesn't work, man. it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So we're gonna say things different angle. Look at it from a different perspective. Because some really don't work. And that's a big bit that we're going to chat about here in a bit. Alright, well, welcome Laguna Muta. Always good. I'm hoping I can see you folks on Halloween. If I can see you before then, that'd be great, brother. I'm excited. Play some music together again. That'll be great. Doug, thank you so much for stopping by as always, brother. Yeah, as I said, about all I got. Yeah, it's some blessings. I got some angels on my shoulders that keep me from falling too hard. Just hard enough, hopefully, to learn something from it. Robo Lady should be on now. Desktop audio is working. Congrats on more iconic comic announcements. I'm super excited for the AP crossover. Excited for my buddy over at Rags as well. Wonderful. It's such an inspiration to watch you folks grow over the years. Talk about heart, right? That's when you're proving you got heart, when you actually can manifest and put out the work so consistently and wonderfully. Misty sent the details already, brother, which was wonderful, and I actually saw her at work a week or two ago, and she implied what was going on as well. So, very, very cool. Hopefully, I mean, it's not far, so, you know, my only excuse would be that my mentality isn't there, which has been pretty consistent. But that's part of perspective also. We can talk about that as well. Never been good at resting. And I think that's been what I've been like needing to do, and I'm just not done with it, and I'm frustrated I'm not done resting. And so I'm not resting well, so I'm not resting quickly. It's you get in your own way a lot, you know? Let's see, is there anything else I can address before we just get into the harder stuff? Let's see. Alright, and then we'll switch to something a little bit chiller on the music front. But I need to wake up, man. I gotta wake up.
Can't you see I'm blazing? Still my heart is blazing.
Oh, okay. Coffee's hitting. I should be pulling things up. That's what I need to be doing. It does sound like Chad Kroeger. There's certain points, very much so. That's funny. Okay, so that's still up. But he's working, so that makes sense. Let's see if this is still up, though. No, it's still up. All right, well, we'll talk about it then. All right. We got some... Oh, wrong tracks there. No. Yeah, there we go. Now we'll go with some chill. And hopefully the rapid shift will wake me up a little bit more. All right. So, howdy folks, IronVerse Comics, all that. We're going to be talking about Heart today. That's the, the perspective of it. We'll go, let's see, here. And then it's usually used in, physical competitions, boxing, UFC, that kind of thing, right? It's basically your strength of will or strength of character applied to difficult situations, right? So I'm very willful. But, boom. Oh, this is a good track. We might stay on this one while I'm showing this. Display screen. Hey, voice bots here. So, Rocky Balboa. Great film. Big fan. I watch those basically one a night for a week. Probably been months at this time. Time's moving too quick for me to really place things in perspective anymore. But not about how hard you hit, which that's the bit, though. Again, it's perspective, right? I think creatively, the work that I have facilitated producing, and I have to give myself credit, punches far above its weight. We're like a featherweight competing in middleweight, and often winning, which is very impressive. But it's how many whacks you can get and keep going. And he's not even talking about get back up. He means keep moving forward. So that would include getting knocked down so hard that you don't get back up that fight, but you get back up later and keep going, right? And that's one of the perspectives I've been working very hard to. And see, I have to be patient with myself as well, because it has been years. Let's go ahead and... Oh, this is a good track, too. Man, I love Guilty Gear, but it's distracting. Oh, it's a good track, though. No, it's just funny. When he hits that... when he goes more into vibrato and the longer notes, he very much sounds like Chad Kroeger, and I didn't really connect that. And then some of his grit and grime, the grit that he puts into his vocals sound a lot like Chad Kroeger too, and I didn't even connect that. That's why you also need to get out of your own head and get outside perspectives, and that's something I am terrible at, especially with people. People are a lot, and I adore them, and they are the most worthy and toughest battles I face, are people. I've always resonated with things more direct and honest things. And you use the term simple, I think that is.
Douglas Ernst said, "You never lose the game until you quit."
Oh, that's why I'm not hearing it.
Or obstacle to be overcome as you keep marching toward your objective.
Boom. I had the audio output in the wrong place. That's why I wasn't hearing Robo Lady. You never lose the game until you quit. Smell the that's funny. A failure is just a temporary setback or an obstacle to be overcome and just keep marching. Exactly. And some are tougher and take more time to go. As long as you don't give up, you continue making progress, you'll get there. You just have to be patient. And patience is something that society does not emphasize. It wants results quickly. It wants consistent results quickly. It wants burn. It won't say it wants burnout, but it wants machinery. It wants mechanization. It wants reliability to the point of inhumanity. And different people are going to have different capabilities within those perspectives, right? Within that challenge. And so again, comparing yourself to others and all these other things, there's so many traps along the way that make it harder and harder than it needs to be, right? And yeah, I've been facing many of those, honestly, self-imposed challenges for a while. The other bit is you can't just place it on outside forces.
Said. And sometimes a failure is exactly what you needed to get where you need to be.
Yep, that's the big one too. There's quite a few great quotes on that. There's a beautiful song. I don't remember what it was. Oh, I do. Now I don't remember. I know Christina Scabbia, who's a metal vocalist. She sings on it, but I've only seen it applied to Dark Souls, which is a wonderful, very unique way to make a video game where failure is it's wonderful for teaching that patience with yourself, the striving, the consistent failure, and then just trying again and again. And the song is about that. And the line that comes to mind is, I believe that you fell so that you would land next to me, right? It's about that.
Said. I often think of certain cacti that only bloom once every 10 years or whatever, and then it's absolutely beautiful. Some people are like that and they should embrace it. The Flock Comic said. Be good to yourself.
Morning, everybody! By the way, this is more active than my chat tends to be, which is also very heartening. I appreciate it greatly. So keep moving forward, right? That's the bit as well. As long as you keep moving forward. So I never stop that, no matter how hard I'm on myself, because it's if nothing else, it's a survival technique mentally. As long as you can see yourself working towards something, then you have footing. You don't lose yourself to muck and mire and the gravity perhaps that you are feeling. If you could grab a hold of a rung of the ladder and apply effort to pulling yourself up, even if you're not getting very far, getting very high with it, it's something. So, I move back and forth on it pretty consistently, right? I do feel that weight, and so you have to take time and breathe and rest and bear that weight for a minute or two. So then you can apply strength, right? You can't apply strength where you haven't recouped it, when you are out of gas. And so I've looked at my recent, and I'm going to call it a heartbreak because it broke my fucking heart. My recent job loss. Man, it did. I've been handling it like a heartbreak, and I hadn't been, from my perspective, I hadn't been treating it as such. I'd been treating it as a failure, and it wasn't. I wasn't even like fired or anything. It was a systemic failure that I happen to be a victim of, and not just me, but things I care about, people I care about, creatures who had already been failed, getting failed again. So it's a heartbreak, and I've been not nursing it as such, because I haven't had many massive heartbreaks of that caliber. I've had many that are, grand losses. Each is unique and different, though, and I hadn't been treating it as such. And so I've been making it harder on myself. And yesterday was fun. Yesterday was a hell of a thing. It was one of those Murphy's Law days where anything that could go wrong did go wrong. But it wasn't one where... I've had them. So I'll call them teaching days, right? Where reality, depending on your perspective, God, creation, the energies around you, however you want to frame this idea. I just hope I'm communicating the perspective and not trying to close somebody in into theirs, right? Or close somebody out. But when a greater will, that's a great way to put it, a greater will applies definitive pressure that you cannot ignore, right? But none of it is this cruel or destructive pressure. Just all of it's, here's another challenge. Here's another challenge. Are you listening? Here's another challenge. Here's another challenge, right? That was yesterday. And you know, it actually, by the end of it, you know, I was calling it an adventure and I was grateful that I got through it, right? Um, but had I been a man of a different perspective, I could see how it would get out of hand very quickly. Um, and that entire experience was a reminder of the fractal nature of this mechanism I'm stuck in, quote unquote stuck. I'm blessed with. I mean, there's a bunch of different perspectives of it, right? Life, this thing we call life, and that, you know. How do I? It's a very personal journey, so I can share these little segments of it that mean very much to me, and it might mean nothing to you. But I'm gonna anyway because I want to. So after all these battles, I very small things, but it was one of those things. Every little things with this perspective. So I currently still have a gig where um, I'm the gopher. I'm the go-to guy for a local artist, and friend, and so I take him to town and we do these things, you know, help him maintain his life, and for that I get a little bit of money. So that's been keeping me afloat. It helps me pay my bills. It's not extreme. It's still a scrape by kind of deal, but I'm not. I treat myself as if I'm unemployed, but I still am working. Again, I'm very hard on myself, and that's again working on changing that perspective. Anywho, so within that, with my truck, small thing, and I've been pushing the truck very hard. The fuel pump is dying. I need to replace that. It's money I do not have. So I've been pushing it for a while. Just saying, I don't have to go that far. I don't have to do that much. Just keep pushing it. Just keep pushing it, right? So there was another angle of it that I've been pushing where my car battery truck battery has those. The poles are the insert poles. They're not the exterior poles, which I really prefer because they don't do what this one does, which is strip. And so that's been stripping for a long time. The bumpy roads around here that are unpaved, even the paved roads being bumpy and shit a lot of the way, right? It shakes things. And so eventually that strips. And the screw-in thing strips. And so I'd been pushing that. I got into a place where, it kind of works, yada, yada, yada. It finally stripped out when I was taking it by. I was stuck in the Walmart parking lot trying to start the thing. Finally fucking stripped there, right? So I go in to, so I'm like, okay, well, we can just rig it and we'll just get this done and I'll go home and see what I can do. There's a couple things you can try. You can use solder. You can use tin foil, right? I had done the solder, so that had held it up to this point. So then I was like, okay, I'm a Walmart. I'll get the aluminum foil. I try the foil. No, it's stripped. It's gone. The lead threading within the battery it was finally gone. The battery was good otherwise. It is that little shitty bit of corporate planned obsolescence that just nags at me. These little expressions of human cruelty towards each other for profit. I'm not anti-capitalist, but I am anti that little bit of evil. We could take care of each other better and still be taking care of ourselves quite well, right? Like I don't think there's an argument there. That's just a little thing, right? That's a little thing that didn't have to occur. They didn't have to use lead. They could have used brass. They could have used a lot of other materials, but they used lead for this reason, because the battery's going to last longer than those threads, so they can get you to buy a battery earlier. Anyway, so it's one of those little reminders that's like, oh, okay, fine. I got to dance within this reality still. And so the little fixes I tried, it wasn't gonna work. So I had to buy a new battery. Um, Luckily, I wasn't stupid, and I had a month warning that I was going to lose this gig, and then I had I say I had a month warning. It was not directly implied I'd lose my gig at that month. It was directly implied I'd lose my gig at the 2 weeks. But I kind of like, oh, okay, shit's breaking down. And so I had been smart enough. I had started living. I already live frugally, but even that next step. There's so many other facets that, like, for this one I'm talking about, there are about 10 others that also have been going quote unquote wrong. It's not wrong, again, if it's guiding you to where you need to be. But challenges that feel unnecessary, but, you know, I don't have this grand perspective. I have my own. And I prefer to believe I'm not a victim of life. I am a adventurer within it. Anywho, so I bought the new battery. New battery works. We get the little fucking twist thing in there. It works fine. We get out of there. But anyway, I guess a little bit of magic I wanted to share, and I call it magic. You can call it a lot of other things. It's one of my. I think people tend to have these, but not everybody. So my dad. How do I phrase this? Folks who have followed the channel and know me to somewhat, because I have put hundreds and hundreds of hours into this channel and to sharing honestly who I am with my work. Now, whether people wanted to see it or not is a different story, but it's been there, right? Yep, there's my potatoes. That's one of the other things. Like we got groceries, I got groceries, and I had brought the potatoes into his house. And so I realized that at about 3 a.m. last night. I was like, oh shit, I forgot my potatoes. That was another little fucking thing. But I didn't sleep that day. I mean, there's a lot of things. But the good thing, the thing that solidified that I was taking the lesson correctly, and I have this, right? And it occurs on a lot of hard days for me. And it's one of my reminders that I don't care if it's reminders of my angels, of the positivity, of the good energy, of the forces greater that have my back, let's say. And there's been many reminders that are very powerful. One of them recently was I won a sweepstakes for a new graphics card. I never win anything like that. But I chose the right time, I did it, and I won a $400 graphics card. Which means my PC is future-proofed, which was going to be a problem sooner or later. And it allows me to sell the old one and help take care of like little things like that. But the bit about my dad worked in falconry when he was a kid. So he always... one of the positive connections. I love animals. They've been my direct siblings almost, and Laguna's here, so there are people who are my direct siblings. I don't have the blood connection to any sibling, but the implied found family, which has been important to me, is there. But falconry. See if I can keep this track. It's been important to me. So he was always pointing out and expressing the importance of noticing birds of prey, let's say. It was one of the few little bits of magic that I really connected with him on. He always raised chickens, right? So I was around, and I'm raising chickens because of him. Birds is where he had his connection. My mom had connection to people. She was a people. She loved people, and I will never understand how much she did because of how hurt they whacked at her. My dad was hurt, so he isolated, very much like I do. But that was his connection to animals. Mine has been dogs. My uncles, my mom's side was horses and dogs and hunting and nature and that the cowboy lifestyle, let's say. And so that's been kind of a partial, like, my familial perspective has always been with the gift of the beautiful creationary gift of we use the term animals, but these different kinds of souls in our own. And one of my dad's connections was to that, so that I could recognize that even as a little kid, and that it meant something to him, and that I thought it was cool. Because it's something that, I've driven people around and all these other things, and I don't always, even my ex, like I would notice it and point it out, and it didn't matter that much, right? To me, it matters quite a bit. And so almost every hard day, so to put it in perspective, and this is sharing a little bit of magic, and so sharing a little bit of heart, so I think it is on point. I mean, I think it's been there every really hard battle I've had. So it's been since my mom passed, so that's 2015. But more so when my dad passed as well. I was really looking out for it. Basically every day for a while, particularly after my dad passed. It wasn't every day, but most every day that I would go to work in the mornings, there is pasture land that I would drive past. And I would catch it was either a grouse hawk or a red tail. See, he could tell the difference between those. I couldn't. I just know it's a bird of prey. You can tell the energy is significantly different from other birds. The size, the wing shape, the head shape, right? You can catch them in flight. Even just how they perch is very different. There's that hunter's grace to it. Anyway, they were there. And sometimes even on the way back from work as well. And it was nearly every day. And that was one of those reminders, if you believe in reincarnation, sure. But even more so if you believe in angels and those greater will, that greater force. I truly do that was a manifestation of that. It was a source of strength that within the chaos of reality need not exist, but was there for me, right? And so anyway, yesterday there was another one. It was like after all this bullshit, and I made sure to, I laugh at it a lot of the time. I used to not. I would lose my shit. I'd get super anxious, or I would not be able to deal with the thing. But instead, I laugh. It's like, okay, well, we got to deal with this now. We got to deal with this now, right? That became my perspective through these different trials. Is that you keep things running. You may not be able to fix it then, but you keep it moving so that you can fix it, right? You don't let it stagnate. You don't let it defeat you, quote unquote. Coming home yesterday, we got a flyover. It was literally five feet from me. It was another hawk, and it was a reminder. It was like, hey, boom. Pointed it out to my buddy too. I was like, hey, that's what matters. I had a similar, less long-winded, less rambly, but similar talk with him about what that meant to me, and that I'm handling it right, and I listened. It's kind of the reward for listening, anyway. You gotta find, even if it's tricking your own perspective into noticing these things and then applying your own perspectives on that thing to you, and it's a good thing, self-reward, then it's fine, however you want to see it. But that's that's part of heart. You gotta find ways to keep yourself moving forward.
Jake Concha said, that Rocky clip is one of my faves of all times.
It's a good one, brother, and welcome. And so there's a lot of shit globally that's requiring, that's testing the heart of humanity, right? Our compassion for each other, our capabilities for atrocity, our sadness, our ignorance, our stubborn nature, all these things. And I've seen it a lot, that a lot of people are having these similar kind of battles that I am. So I don't think I'm special in any of those ways. And I have to remind myself that, again, I'm not a victim of this. I'm an adventurer, and a lot of us are on the same I mean, we're on the same spinning ball, but I'm trying to figure out how to like communicate that it's not the same path,
Immortal Death God.
but head in the same direction.
Glad you find and have your heart. Remember, we are here too for you. Thanks for all you do.
Much appreciated. So, okay, that's a great play. So the original title of this stream, before I put its perspective, is like, what to do when you can't throw in the towel. That's why I had it, because I can't. But that perspective of it is defeatist, right? Like, well, I can't quit. So it's not defeatist. It's a victim mentality. It's a weird one, though, because it's like, well, I can't be a victim, but I'm being victimized. Let me, boom, I'll show you the other bit. And so I've had this nudge again and again lately. Let me go to it. Let's go, boom. I gotta go to my bookmarks here.
Douglas Ernst.
No, it's not truth. Boom.
The greater the battle, the sweeter the glory.
Yeah, right? And that's the bit. I will not deny that things get tough when you cannot see the path forward and all you can do is pick a direction and crawl blindly towards it, right? And that's where I've been for a little too long. But that's okay. That's been one of my bits. It's okay. Even if you're not okay with it, even if it's uncomfortable, it's a good thing. A direction is better than stagnation every single time, because the only thing in this crazy ass creation, this adventure, I'll rephrase that, is forward momentum. Whether it's got to drag you with it, or you're flowing on top of it. And so there's been a couple different things, and Laguna, I don't know if he's still here, did see it. Wonderful video to remind me. I read Book of the Five Rings, Miyamoto Musashi, years back, but it had come up, and it hadn't been phrased to me the same way, but be the leaf on the river. The flow state is the most comfortable and when you're most open to, again, Western perspective, you're most open to divine will. Eastern perspective, when you're most capable, is within that flow state, where you can see things the clearest. Oh, come on, where is that? That's pretty far back. but this was one of my first bits. Boom.
Still hear man listening intently.
Ha! You don't have to listen that intently. It's a lot of rambling. But boom. This came up. God, how long ago? July. So it's been months. Again, time for me has been weird. My previous gig. I'm just thinking if I want to share another hard fight that had to do with that. My previous gig had a lot of loss. It had a lot of victories and beautiful victories, but it had a lot of losses, particularly towards the end of that fight. So I worked 4 days a week there, starting on a Thursday. So the Friday of my last couple days, the time ran out for a pup that I greatly appreciated meeting. One that almost had gotten a different chance, but there was a mismanagement that ended up hurting a person. And one of the hardest parts of that gig was knowing at any point if the dog fucked up, that was it. Realistically, no. Or I guess technically, not realistic. Technically, no. But once a dog has hurt a person, whether it's lightly, whether it was the person's fault and the person understood that, whatever, once it had done that, it changes their legal definition to a point that they become very, 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 very difficult to adopt out. And this guy was already very difficult. He's a 160-pound Rottweiler. He's already difficult to get out. And he was the scariest dog I ever worked with when he came in. Like, you knew at any point, and he knew it. And again, the relationship I was able to build with this dog, with this fucking amazing soul, this puppy. It's just a big puppy. It's a child. That's what. This job was tough, and that's part of why I'm glad. I would never have left that, and it probably would have continued to drain and destroy me, and I would have been fine with doing that. I would have given everything for that because it was important. So in some ways, I'm very glad I got kicked, but that's why it's part of a heartache. But anyway, it's 2 days before I'm leaving that job, and things are getting harder for the people there that I care about. These wonderful people who have nothing but the best intentions to take care of these beautiful souls in hard positions. I also had to say goodbye to somebody who, I'm going to use buddy, somebody I really cared about, and who against all odds was willing to open themselves back up, and who I was able to communicate with. It was tough.
Perhaps your soul needed out of that situation.
Exactly, brother, and that's part of the perspective. And so, I'm glad I was there. It didn't happen after, right? There's these little things, and so I've gone back. I'm a volunteer there now as well, but it's the last time I went back, I was reminded of there was something there that made me angry. And I was angry there at a lot of things, but I had the capability to improve them, let's say. In the capacity I have as a volunteer there, I have significantly less capacity, and it takes a greater ability to let go and just do what you can. And again, I suffering through heartbreak, the perspective may not be accurate, but the heart of it, you know, the emotional resonance I feel, whether it's anger, love, appreciation, all these different things, that's honest, right? What you're seeing it through, or even seeing through those colored lenses, that might not be. There's something there the last time that kind of pissed me off pretty significantly. And it wasn't just one thing either. That's made it harder to go back since. Which I think was a reminder that, you know, it's okay. You can step away from it. It is what it is. And I can come back. It's not going anywhere. I can heal first so I can come back with the proper perspective. And so that ties into this, because of proper perspective. For a long time, quote unquote, when did you start thinking like a loser? For a long time, I'm thinking like a loser. Now I also have seen some things, specifically, I study a lot of Stoicism, and I study Buddhism, I study spirituality in general, Christian spirituality as well, which has an unbelievable sense of resistance and love to it, if it's handled correctly and not as a bludgeon. Which is honestly any belief system. But, so it is okay. Again, something else I came across is, you know, there aren't really losers. There's in that case, there's karma. The position you find yourself in within this reality, right? The circumstances you, quote unquote, did not choose, that you find yourself within.
I really connect with maybe being in a victim mentality and staying stagnant, so thanks for talking about all this.
You're very welcome. This is the work. That's my bit. This is what has kept me in the fight every time. Anybody who reads my books, that's this is the work.
Hearing all the stuff you've been through, it's obvious that you have a deeper, honest understanding of yourself than many people. It's a painful experience, but a true blessing.
I believe so too. And so, well, you spend a lot of time alone as a human being. So, as hard as I am on myself, I understand I don't need to be that. Self-love is one of the two strongest pillars you can stand on and face reality. Reality's not again, it's the work. I have difficulty selling the work, let's say, but that doesn't make it any less important, any less honest, any less worth doing, right? And even then, compared to a lot of folks, I don't have that hard of a time selling it because it is an honest, beautiful, passionate, skillful expression of some important things. I think that's why we talked about these lessons that I've gone through, right, earlier. The last two campaigns of Jack Irons funded the last day. And it strung me along. I had thought I had lost already. I had believed that. But you know what? Let's put the energy out there. Let's give it its all because it deserves it. Boom. It actually worked out. And then I found myself with an even greater fight than that campaign. Those campaigns are hard. They're draining. They don't have to be. I'm not a performer. I like to think I'm a decent storyteller, but I only do that because... What's that quote? Be the adult you needed as a kid. I take that further. Be the human you need in this world, right? Be that person. Be that. Whether that is you all the time or not doesn't matter. It's the I talk about this a lot too. Is you got to find your guiding stars. What matters to you in this reality, and once you find that, if you're actually looking at it as what it is, the path forward, as the guiding star, as the bright light, it should shine light on all these things around you for what they are.
An important part of self-love is being able to assess our own actions and realize that we can trace a lot of pain to our own past mistakes.
Yes. And that's been a lot of lessons with this. For instance, I do this work because it's important, not 100% because I am ready for it, or I have done all the preparation for it, or that I have the skills to do it, right? I do it because it's the path forward, and because I have faith that I can survive it is the other bit. I'm very stubborn. I definitely do not look at it as a victim mentality. This life will take me when it should. When I am done. If I fuck up, it's gonna go quicker. But as you know, it's hard. The perspective is very hard. You know, I grew up with the concept of karma, and the bigger, more like what people think of kind of karma now. The more westernized version of it, where you attract what you put out, right? And so from that, you know, the magnetism of energy, like attracts like, right? Even though that's not how physics work, like attracts opposite in physics, and you'll get some of that too. The brighter you shine, the darker shadows you'll cast, right? And vice versa. And again, the leaf on the water, you flow with it. It's going to be a little bit more comfortable. The reflections of what you're doing is going to be more comfortable because the water's the energy that's carrying you. You don't have to push so hard yourself. I need a reminder of that. I've been trying very, very, very hard. I've been struggling and swimming like, I want that shore, I want that. No, breathe. And it's been me for a while. This previous gig, that was part of it. Many beautiful lessons, wonderful souls. I mean, again, I don't even know how many I had to say goodbye to in my short year there. It came out to at least one a month. And there wasn't a creature there that I didn't have a rapport with, that I didn't have a communication with, that didn't have to be there because those wonderful creatures had, in many cases, suffered greatly, and had every reason to never want to deal with humanity again. But I wasn't humanity, I was me. And they recognized that. And that is just fucking gorgeous, you know? And part of the heartbreak of leaving that. But anyway, you don't have to think like a winner. Think like an alpha. Think like a predator, right? That's not me. I would prefer to say think like a warrior. And people's perspectives of a warrior is fucking skewed. I try to articulate it and put it out there, because a lot of what I put out as content, quote unquote, but I use this platform, I use Twitter. They're means for me to take a thought, an expression, a energetic resonance which I am experiencing,
said,
and throw a reflection on it. Exactly. And a lot of people think more, it's a fighter is what people think of. And I don't mean boxing fighter, I don't mean UFC fighter, I mean somebody who looks to fight. Most people have those switched. To me, a warrior is the quintessential, and this is another hot button term, quintessential patriarchal archetype. That which protects their home, protects their family. And that has many levels.
Said, all creators have it, you have to resist and push forward and be true to yourself.
And so, and that's the big bit too, right? And so I have faith in that. As much as I have struggled with very much hating things I perceive as negative within me, I have a very deep love of the gift of life, and particularly the gift of life that I was given. Nobody else was given this. This is mine. And I will never disgrace that by disliking that and saying that I'm a victim of it. I have nothing else to judge against. This is the one thing that I was given that no one else was. Now, there are many other things if you want to cut it up into bits, but this encompasses all of those, right? It is the one true thing, and it is mine. And so, within that, there are, there's some selfishness that I need to apply to it sometimes that I'm not willing to. There is some selflessness, which I like to believe I do, but sometimes I don't. There's stressors and factors to that of which I need to improve upon. There are reactions to external and internal stimuli I wish I could handle better. I am very... we're talking about heart today. So here's another expression people tend to use, wearing your heart on your sleeve. And when you do that, I am very raw, right? It's I'm not thick.
Said, we all have to learn to walk with our shadow.
That's the big one. And so wonderful expression that I saw resonate as a reminder. Too, but a wonderful expression of that is the manga Berserk. It is a incredible, nuanced, and the will to express it as deeply and clearly as possible. And I can see why it resonated with so many. But, and that's why I'm so grateful to work in comics. How many times has that work been adapted and it's like, oh, well, it's all right. The adaptation's fine. That's because you cannot mimic the application of will that Miura applied to those pages. He killed himself over that. He killed himself fighting with his shadow. In a beautifully ugly way. And there is, within some ugliness of creation, what was it? Lucifer was the most beautiful angel. We can apply it that way, right? Made him the most vain. But I've been noticing that more and more too, is there, especially in art, there are many very incredible souls who can only express their true beauty through ugliness, which is and a very nuanced and precise expression of ugliness, not the atrocity level of ugliness we see, not the cruelty level of ugliness. This is very passive, right? It is a battle within oneself that is applied, uh, and then shared, and it's shared. It's not forced, and that's the difference between evil and simply being human. I think is the darkness, the true darkness tricks and forces and rages against that current I've been talking about, right? Whereas those who carry a heavy darkness but understand and have applied will, skill, technique, time, study, practice to it, have attempted not to control their shadow, but to learn how to live with it. And that's why I love comics. Is one of the purest expressions of that I've found within this art form. There's many other art forms that do it. You'll see it within movies. You'll see it within basically every art form that has anything worth its salt. You'll see it in music. All these things, and there's different ways of it. You'll see as the metal in particular as a concept, metal music. It has gone some very ugly places, and sometimes the people within it have been very ugly. More often than not, though, they are people carrying a very heavy burden, and they wanted to share with the world, and the world got something out of it because they too recognize within themselves some of that. I'll go back to Berserk. When Miura passed, I had never seen sequential art have such a resonance in so many artistic fields. A passing of a sequential artist have such a wide resonance.
Said,
it's incredible.
My next project will address the shadow.
Hey, if that works, brother. Again, I'm honest. I love your music. You know that. And the times I've been blessed to be a part of it. Music was my first real experience with sharing that, and particularly with making that a communal experience, which with how I grew up, I wasn't very communal, right? I have wonderful friends. But that wasn't most of my time. I didn't grow up in a sibling-based household. I didn't grow up with many people. And even the people I did grow up, I made sure to isolate myself again because my nerves are exposed. That heart is beating and it's right out there. So it wasn't preferable to expose it to external stimuli. It just wasn't. So I hide. It's also why I don't make new friends very easily. As a kid, my God, any sort of public-based energy would overwhelm me just terribly. I was extremely shy. I've gotten better doing stuff like this, but and then there's that shadow bit of me, which is like, I shouldn't, and I'll use this term because it's how it often comes into my mind, I shouldn't inflict myself upon others. Oof. It's a rough one. That's one I've gotten better of, particularly since facing these larger battles. Where that was like, oh, that's bullshit, brother. Quote unquote, calling myself brother, but you know, it's not truth. Again, it's his gift, but that was and sometimes is the perspective, inflict, and that oof. Because of how much I disliked and the strong recognition of the darkness and but it's also being scared of others, right? It's also just being like, I don't want to be hurt either. Gotten better at that. And taking pride in improvement is important. And that was something I was not ever good at either, that I've gotten better since putting myself out there. Small things are big things in a lot of cases. They're recognizing that. And I needed a reminder, and I've been reminded again and again. You don't want to look here where you want to go. You want to look where you are. And then within that day, how can you get to here? And then tomorrow, don't look at it today, but tomorrow, how can you get to here? When you're there tomorrow, you do the same thing. And you don't look at this. You use it as a guiding star. You use it as the light. But you don't live there. If you live there, you're going to be in some trouble. Because there doesn't exist. It will never exist. It's just the ignition, right? That's all it is. It's just the ignition. Anything past that is dishonesty. It's not truth. You can't see into the future. Now, to be fair, I have had dreams where I saw into the future, but I didn't know that until I was in that moment. It was just another dream, right? Until I was in that moment, and then it's deja vu. Anywho, all of this to say, my hope is it's got to be about heart.
Laguna Munta.
It's the only way you survive.
You can't bet your current happiness on a potential future.
Yep. And even more so, you can't bet your current happiness on the past. Which has been a big one for me. All these things happen, so you shouldn't be. Same problem. You can't live back here, you can't live over here, and you only got this. That's why so many Eastern religions focused on that, is because they found great value in this. Because that's, if you're honest to yourself, all of the memories and all of the thoughts, all of this is part of this. So there's only this, and you can only act within this. So be there. That's where you're going to have the best perspective. The best capability of actually applying your intent. And even then, intent without expectation is very important. All this to say, we had another loss over here at IronVerse Comics. And I can call it a loss. It is what it is.
It is about heart, because the heart is where the finite that is you is tethered to the infinite, which is God, who has unfathomable love for you and wants the best for you.
Bingo. And I know, even myself, I grew up in a spiritually explorational household where my mother landed on very loose Christianity, but she had explored she explored Judaism for a long time. She had converted over because her first husband was, and she had found great value in that community. My dad, the closest to real spirituality he had was through yoga, and so that's an expression of Hinduism. He never really saw it that way, but it is, with a little bit of Buddhism in it as well. It's that same family, right? But my mom did end up Protestant, I guess is what it was. My grandmother, who was very hard as well. Mental illness runs in my family. Generations on my mother's side. I can't even tell you how many. It might be back to time immemorial. It's basically as far as my mother's great-great-grandmother. Like, that's as far as she knew, which would be my great-great-great-grandmother. So that is generations and generations. That is a long time where many have given up on this adventure sooner than perhaps they should have. Again and again and again, particularly the women, but even the men. So my grandmother, her mother, did not, and she very well could have. She found strength in Christianity and in faith. I think what she found even more so, which it's the basis of it, in my opinion, is what I love about it, is forgiveness. Is that love you're talking about, Doug? And it gave my grandmother, who I never really clicked with because how raw I was and how I could feel this darkness and these hard bits of her, and how I had heard these hard bits of how she had treated my mother. and all these different things. She found what Christianity calls salvation in that, and that's beautiful. It's wonderful. My mother, I think, was looking for something similar, even though I don't think she needed it to the same degree. And I think that's why she also didn't lean into it to the same degree. Because she loved people. I don't think my grandmother loved people as much as my mother did. She found that divine expression of love within people. Whereas my grandma, and who knows how her mother was like, right? I was too little. And by the time I wasn't too little, and this is one of the things I will always be reminded of, is I never got to know, the only family member I really got to know as an adult was my father. And even then, I was still his kid. I'm still a kid as far as I'm concerned. A lot of that person is very much still here. But the adventure I've been on that has grown me into who I am currently, this person, and if you want to go scientifically, we shed basically everything every 7 years. We're quite literally a new body every 7 years. I don't know how that works with brain and neurons. I don't think that applies. So, you can go through chakras. You can go through all those different energetic expressions and connections into divine will when you try and make it mechanical so you can explain it to somebody else. You can go into that, but I don't need to. That person, this person, very much would have loved to know them, because the person I was previously was too raw and too self-absorbed and too stuck in just trying to survive as themselves to truly get to know them.
Laguna Munta.
It sucks.
Said, I can relate, man. I don't think I'll ever not feel like a kid.
I can tell you, my dad, that's one of the things I got to know. He never did. He died at 80, right? About halfway to 81. He's like, well, I'm still the guy I was at 15. The body ain't working. And I think that's the big bridge, right? Not everybody can do that. A lot of people change. A lot of people go through some pretty hard shit, and that makes them feel like they have to, and so they leave that child behind. And I see a lot of that, and sometimes it's for good, because you have to take care of your own child now. You need to leave that, right? I don't think that's true. I think the child within you should be friends with the child you've created. I think that's super important. In fact, that's what I found working with animals is this me can only really relate, connect, and actually find the love within the me that originally met these creatures and found them and learned how to communicate with them. My voice even changes when I talk to them, to that child voice. And sure, it's probably not that attractive, but it's honest and it works very well.
Says, I'm no longer a needy boy, but I have a needy boy. Douglas Stearns said, I would say that feeling like a kid is really you making yourself vulnerable, which is a sign of maturity. Most people do not want to make themselves vulnerable, which leads to growth.
That's a bit too, right? Like, I have had no other choice but to wear my heart on my sleeve. It's how I'm built. And I've been very honest to myself with that. So yes, there's been, I call them mistakes. Again, it's the adventure. I can't look at it as entirety. Who knows where I'm supposed to go? And you can call them sacrifices that needed to be made along the way to take me where I need to be, right? That's one way to look at it. There's too many ways to look at it. It's one of those things that, like, you can bang your head against that wall forever and you will not find truth or honesty because it's not there for you to find now. And it will not be there for you to find now. I hope it's there to be found, but now and here and now, that ain't where you find it. And so vulnerable is what I've been. So that has made me try to be defensive in the ways I understood, which is isolation. It's hard to be hurt. You can still be vulnerable, but if you're isolated, you're not getting hurt, right? That's been me for a long time. And it's still going to be me. It's just how I'm built. But then I went and surrounded myself with beautiful life forms that demand I get up in the morning, which there was many times I haven't been able to, that are infinitely patient with me when I'm not patient with them, that are infinitely forgiving when I'm not forgiving to myself. Again, that's why it's such a heartbreak. I really appreciated being able to give back to the general expression of this. The being that has gone do or die with mankind. And what that means. And knowing that they actually understand what that means. It's crazy. For 40,000, 50,000 years of us? Fucking A. Talk about an angel. And so I wanted to do more work with them. I was going to maybe try and suck up my pride and go back to the gig I had before. If I could. I didn't even know if I could. I had to suck up my pride and ask, right? But that gig disappeared as far as I'm aware now. And you know what? That's probably a good thing too. I might need to be somewhere else. It just sucks because working with these critters got me out of bed very easily, even when I was doing really badly. It's like, oh, okay, well, I can go see my animal friends and I can take care of them and pay them back. And that's not there, so I'm having a harder time waking up and wanting to. Most of what I need to do now is take care of myself. And that's one of my fights. I still don't really value myself enough to take care of myself. And so one of the tricks I was able to do, again, is, well, I have to take care of myself to take care of others, right? That's how I'd be able to do it. And that's not working as well now. And so I've tried to take care of the work. I've tried to do all these different things. I was going to talk about the loss of IronVerse Comics now, another one. Right now, Dollar Coins is in the military, and of course he chose this time. He's a very spiritual man, very deep into his beliefs of Christianity. It saved his life, and he's been very kind about it. He's not very pushy about it. But he joined the military now. And, oof.
Like you're someone you're responsible for.
Because, yeah, I am. I'm the only one that's going to take care of myself. I know. But there's a part of me that's like, no, you should suffer. And sometimes I gotta let that one talk, because if I don't, then it'll find a way to talk. And that's part of my resting as well, that I haven't been letting myself rest because I went straight into survival mode, when honestly, I didn't need to. I thought, well, I have to take care of these beings, I have to take care of myself, I have to make sure all these different things. But when I honestly step back and look at how much time I can provide myself right now, because I'm not a complete idiot, because I do prepare, and I do, even though I don't have finances completely handled, I survive. I built a buffer for myself. I can rest, and I can be kind to myself, and I can just breathe and deal with this heartbreak. But that's not what I looked at it as. I was like, oh, instantly I'm out of here. And not only can't I provide the energy I love to provide that takes care of myself and others, but I need to find a new place to do it now. You have to survive. You have to need to calm down. I have grand anxiety problems. And I need to breathe. And so what I did instead, I started looking for gigs, and there's nothing that sounds like it'd get me out of bed. And that's the big one, right? It's like, yeah, I can go get money, but money doesn't get me out of bed. Money will nearly never get me out of bed. The concept itself, the only way I can Faustian bargain with how we deal with this is the fact that it keeps us from killing each other to the same degree we would without it. It doesn't keep us from killing each other. It doesn't, in fact, it spurs it on in many places. But to the same general day-to-day level that we could have beforehand, where it was just hoarding supplies. But sacrificing my soul to that effigy and waking up in the morning and providing my energy and my existence, this gift of life to that energy, no. No, thank you. Not the powers that control it, not the fucking darkness that no. That doesn't wake me up. That doesn't get me moving. Even the threat of death because of the lack of it doesn't. What gets me out is that, again, it was, I can go help these things. I can go provide value to these things. And, I'm getting a paycheck, and that allows me to maintain so I can keep doing it. Okay. But that was extra.
Follow your bliss.
And that's the bit. And I'm trying to find where that could be. And what I latched onto right away is comics, is artistic expression. That can get me out of bed in the morning. It gets me to put myself out there, even though it's very raw. It gets me to share. That's the other thing I have. But it gets difficult when the financial backing's not there, where my... we're going to talk about this. My business acumen is terrible. Whether it is financial maintenance on these things, whether it's understanding what to do, it's not terrible in the fact that it has taken care of those sharing their will, their artistry, their passion with this project. I have never not done that. To be fair, I have not done it to the backers multiple times. I finished, right? But the patience that it's demanded to get that done has been rough. And so that was rough with this too, to be honest.
Dude, you belong in comics. It's so clear from an outside perspective that you have a lot to offer the world through your creativity.
I really appreciate that. I wish I knew how to create a circus I could survive in that also would draw attention to it. But so I'm trying. Okay, so I am trying. I decided that. So that's why I leaned into, right? That's where I found this bit. So I've been streaming more, even though this is like the most successful stream I've had I think I've been out of work for a month and have been trying really hard for comics for about that time. Which is great. Thank you all for being here. I'm glad the timing worked out. Again, thank you for taking your time. It is the most incredible gift you can lend somebody is your time. Whether or not they appreciate that, that's on them, but I certainly do. We have a finite time. We don't know how long that is. And see, that is another bit. Compared to finances, you giving me your time is incredible. Getting people to give you their time is tough. Because the amount of noise and the amount of things asking for that time. And particularly where the world is right now, where everybody's scared because of the systems wrangling them into fear. Where not everybody's hurting, but enough people are hurting because of these systems. And I know that we have enough abundance to take care of each other, and we don't. That's about as far as that goes.
Creativity.
Yep, and I don't think you can. Some people are are skilled enough, or have found where they can apply that time and will to make it feasible. I haven't yet, and it sucks. Right now, what I would do, if I could, is I'd be running a campaign. I'd be reprinting issues 1 through 4 as a trade paperback. I can't.
People cannot comprehend the value of a single soul. You won't see what you've accomplished until you step into eternity. I'm telling you that you've done amazing work affecting souls.
I appreciate that, brother. Thank you. I'm trying to trust and have faith again that this path will take me where it needs to be. The second I heard I was losing this job, I was like, well, you need to be somewhere else now. I don't know where that is yet. And that the transitionary periods are hard. The uncertainty is hard. The fact that financial pressure is being applied to me from so many different angles. Right now, when I don't have anything to lean up against to be like, okay, no, I got this. I can win these challenges. It's hard. I have enough to survive, but that will run out. And I had been saving that to finish off the Jack campaign so that I can actually, you know, put more energy into getting the financial spark back in the books and maybe actually make something off of these books for once. Because I can do that if I reprint a trade paperback. But I haven't completed my deal. I haven't held up my end of the bargain for this one. So asking that not only is an ugly look, and that many have been willing to do and have succeeded anyway, and that don't need the money and do it anyway. But that's not me. I can't do that. I haven't finished one battle, starting a second one. That sure it's easy, and winning it would help this battle. It doesn't feel right. Now, could I do it? Yeah, maybe. And could I win it? I don't know. And I've seen diminishing returns, and that's. I'll show you this other battle that we were. It wasn't even I was facing. I was a combatant on it, but it wasn't my battle, and we lost it. And it was a small battle. This is for the Recluse. We were not able to kick up enough attention and affection for this beautifully expressed piece of work. So he is going to close the campaign probably after work today. We have 18 days left. Could it be done? Absolutely. And I think it could be too. I'm not going to show it, but I'd like to express how it was expressed to me. And it's something I agree with, honestly.
Laguna Munta said, keep sharing stories like these. It's vital for other creators, myself included, to hear creators share their struggles and learn to keep pushing hard.
It was said that he thinks it could still make it. I do too. But looking at what needs to be done, I just don't have the fire or motivation for it anymore. And when this battle found me, I didn't either. I tried.
Okay. Said,
Hi, brother.
you can show it.
All right, thank you, brother. I don't mean to talk about it without you here, brother. So that's the wonderful creator right there, Scott. But this is honest. Like, and I found myself in the same place, brother. That's like, I understand. I think it can still make it, but looking at what needs to be done, I just don't have the fire and motivation anymore. I couldn't within me find how to do that either. And that's why I posted that Miyamoto Musashi video, is because it found like the harder you try, the worse it can be, because we're struggling against this current. And I know you felt it too. Both of us did, but we both wanted to honor that effort, honor the energy that was put into it, even if that's just flailing. And it's rough. It's rough. There are just other things you find yourself enjoying more. Oh, I know how that goes, brother. Again, I haven't been resting like I should be because I feel like, oh, I need to survive, and this is what I want to do. But that's competing for money, and how you compete for money nowadays, and probably ever, unless you're very, very skillful, is deceit, or is I've had to e-bag so many times, and it wasn't deceitful, it was survival. But I have never made a consistent paycheck out of my art. And that's kind of a lie. We do make donations through Patreon, and we do make donations through Global Comics, but that paycheck goes straight to just keeping the website up, which I don't even know how valuable the website is. I love the website. I think it's cool. Could I apply the money elsewhere? Maybe. But it's not enough to get pages done. It's not enough to... it would pay my internet. So it's just like, eh. I'd rather have it go to holding the fan art on the site, holding a place where everybody can check out the books easy, holding a place where they can find where to contact us easy, even if that's, that's $45 a month. It's not cheap for me. Anywho, appreciate you. I appreciate you too, brother. Maybe we can try again. I hope we can. I think we will, as I said here. I look forward to a time when it feels right and things just flow. I believe the timing was just not right for either of us, and we had kind of been feeling it out for even before the campaign launch for months, me trying to finish Jack 4, and it's just not happening. I had been saving for so long, and I'd finally hit like an amount where, shit, I could pull the trigger and finish this, and then, oh, I need it to survive. Okay. You know how disheartening that was? On top of that, the fact that what I was doing to be able to do that disappeared. It meant so much to me spiritually, and as just a human being giving back to that level. Losing that, it hurt. So what I've tried to do... Give me a second, sorry, it's multiple... Wait, that's on here? I don't see it. Did I hide it? It's on here somewhere. It's gotta be. Huh. Well, it's muted. That's fine. Is this. Right? I'm building this. I don't know how good it's gonna be. I don't know if it's gonna be worthwhile. I don't know if... I don't know. But you know, I talked about this earlier.
Said. I felt it weighing on us both, and the more I thought about letting it go was relief.
And it's funny, the same night that last night that you put that, I did come across that Miyamoto Musashi thing before I saw your message, and it was actually after you sent it, so it's a good intertwining. Was that struggling against the stream bit is sometimes if you're, and the video was called, the harder you try, the worse things get. And I think that's what was happening. And so that's why I was, again, of course I want this to succeed. Of course I want it out. I 100% believe in it. It's a beautiful piece of artistry. It deserves to be at IronVerse Comics. It honestly deserves to be somewhere better than IronVerse Comics, but it is most certainly an expression. It matches the mission I have. And that's to put it selfishly, but it's an important mission. It's the mission that Jack, gave me, that saved me. Anyway, this is hopefully part of it. I don't know how successful it'll be. The first thing was building that almost 40-person group chat, which hasn't burnt itself into flames, which I'm very impressed by. Because I've got very differing political beliefs in there, and people have been adults in it, which I can't ever expect on the internet. So that was my first worry. It's like, well, I'm going to try this first before I start bringing people live together, where it could become very out of hand very quickly. Because I think there's value in bringing folks together under this beautiful medium and under their intent for that medium, and allowing that to be more important than these other important things. I'm not going to deny their importance, but to see if people can understand that. I've wanted to do this for years, but I don't like socializing most of the time. I really don't. And even more so, like hosting and being this thing like this. I don't like authority. I don't like having authority, but even more so, I don't like the concept of raising something above another. Because again, I have my own. I love and appreciate my own adventure, my own journey. Each person has that. And at that base level, it's level, all the same on that. And I can never, ever honestly view yours. I can't even view mine honestly, right? So how the fuck am I going to judge and view yours? How am I going to hold myself? So I'm trying to view it more of... So I originally wanted to set it up, and this was a little too much, but like a Lakota council. So I don't know if you folks have studied much of that. So a lot of my spirituality comes from Native beliefs. It's what I have resonated with greatly. My dad as well. So that was the other spectrum of belief that he carried in. Oh, you having a nightmare, buddy? Why? It's okay. It's okay. There you are. Yeah. Sleepy man. Sorry, Spud was not having fun in his brain. That's my job, is to get him out of there. Anyway, because a lot of what they resonate with is very grounded. It's very human to me. It's a lot less. Uh, it's nonetheless divine. I'm not going to use that term, but it's less theoretical, let's say. And so how they would run their councils is, and again, you'd have a pipe. That would be the time period in between, right? You pass that, then they have the right to speak. Then they smoke after they spoke, and you're not allowed to speak or to engage in that conversation until they're done smoking. 10, 15, 20 seconds up to a minute of silence, so that the words that were said were given the gravitas and the importance and the respect that that person being there deserves. That kind of communication I am on board with. Hell, you can hate that. It can be emotionally charged. It can be an ugly expression, but you have to sit with it. So I wanted to do something like that, but I was like, that's too authoritative. It's too demanding of creatives, and it's just too far removed from modern day thought. It's not going to work. Yeah, I would be having to apply and uphold that constantly, and I'd feel like an asshole. How that worked then was tradition. Children saw it and they watched it and they understood, and then it gave them this level of that. That's not something that we do anymore. My God, if we did that in politics, the amount that we'd be able to see of these people would be a much clearer perspective. Their performances, their masks, their facades would fall right the fuck off, and we would have better people.
I love the sound of something like that.
And so you still find those traditions here. I engage in that myself. You know, you have to let your own thoughts do that sometimes. You have to sit with them for a minute. You don't have to acknowledge them, you don't have to agree with them, but you have to respect it. That's how you can survive the shadow, as we were talking about Laguna. So I wanted to do that. That's my original thought, but the more I thought about it, it's incompatible, particularly with modern day, with people. with people these days, they are impatient. Society demands too much of us for us to take the time to actually listen to each other. So for me to even make this happen, I had to sacrifice that concept. Sucks, but my original, this years I've had this in the back of my mind, because I was like, I see all these aggressive factions and tribes and blah in a beautiful artistic medium that, of course it's going to be part of it. It doesn't need to be a part of everything within it. And that was one way I was like, well, that'll force people to fucking deal with it. And it'll force them to be adults. And that's the bit that I don't think I can enforce, because it would require force. For the Lakota, maybe you do have an angry younger war chief who is not going to let that elder finish their pipe. He's thrown out of the council until he can calm the fuck down, right? Who throws them out? The calmer chief, because he has that respect. I don't believe I have that level of respect. Now, this is my table. I could absolutely do that. And I plan to if bullshit comes up. But I'd also very much want to provide a space where people feel comfortable and not thrown on the spot and not having to just sit there in silence. The pipe is what engages that. You can watch them smoke it, and the medicine within that, and I both mean medicine as chemically as well as energetically and mystically. The medicine within that pipe is what creates the space. I cannot create a virtual pipe. So that concept I had to let go of. But I had to grind on it to see if, oh, is there any way I could do that? Is there any, like, blah, blah, blah. I could hit a timer, like in chess, right? I could hit a timer and then we just got to sit there and watch the timer. That's a virtual pipe, but that is a rigid Western, non-communal expression of that. So I couldn't do that. So what I need to do is jump into it, and only by experiencing it will I know if there's any mechanism like that I could figure out. And best of all, it might not even be fucking necessary, right? That's my bit. So this was and I spoke about this earlier, sometimes you see no path forward, but you got to move forward anyway, so you crawl blindly in the dark. This is me crawling blindly in the dark just so I know I can still move, right? So I don't stagnate. So I don't die the spot I fell, right? And so creating the group chat in Twitter was the first step. I was like, well, people are showing a massive interest in a space like that. I don't know if it's a space like that for me, but I'm the one presenting the space, so maybe. But a space like that. And so, sure, why not? Let's see. And that's what it was. It's crawling blindly in the dark. And so losing this gig, I felt the other way that I need to do good. It's just how I'm built. Whether that just helps with self-worth, so I feel like I deserve to be here, or if that's just because of how I'm built, I don't know. It's probably both. But that was instantly the other place I could do that, because again, the place that I was able to for a year, it's so difficult to be there. I was hoping I could just weekly I'll go visit, I'll check on the animals, I'll hang out and just kind of feel out the vibes, and I did it twice, and it made me so angry. Angry me is the me I least want to be around. It's he's cruel.
I really love the idea. I think the timing and pace would come naturally.
Oh, I hope so, brother. In fact, I wanted to talk to you about that in a different kind of space. This one for comics might be a little bit less. I want the concepts to be more heady so that they're more general and it doesn't go into rigid faction, and more like, this is what I feel, because that's less rigid, and though it's more honest, right? It's not a defensive facade like tribes are. Just to be blunt about it. So I have for a long time wanted to talk to you about maybe doing some kind of podcast about larger concepts, because I enjoy our talks and others may as well. So if that's something you're curious about, I'd love to talk to you more about it. Also, it gets me to maybe talk to you more often, brother. Because when I'm left to my own impetus, without routine, it's difficult.
I mean, if we're talking like we are today, that would be incredible.
That'd be my hope. I can ramble on forever. I'm very free-flowing with speech when it's something important to me. And that's the other bit, too, is that environment I talked about, the Lakota Council kind of environment. For one, it was the men talking, right? And they didn't get final say on shit. That was part of the bit too, is that, yeah, sure, we all do this, but it doesn't really matter if the women aren't on board, right? So there was this bit of, it's important, but it's not strongly important, right? It was a communal, the layers of how it was stacked was very different, and some people may not, I mean, again, if you're an American, our founding fathers built the Constitution off of the Lakota Confederation set of beliefs. Many of its bits. So it was a mix of Rome and the Lakota. Glorious fucking set of ideas for some very complicated men. I'll put it at it. I would love to say good men, but they were human. They weren't these legendary figures that patriotism wants us to raise. They were human with a very deep and wonderful intent. But they're still very human. Anywho, that space is just, it doesn't exist anymore. And within art, there's no reason for there's infinite creativity. There should be room for all these different spaces, and my I don't see that. I see very rigid. Oh, you talked to this person, you are out. Oh, you did this, you are out. I've seen that since I got here, and this is art. But I think why that happens is because it's also money. That's my problem with money. And that's the other bit too. So the Lakota system, they had trade and all of that, but it was more on the communal end, right? You took care of each other because you took care of each other. You took care of him because he took care of you. Um, Less you took care of him because you're paid by this guy to take care of him, right? Or what have you. And so our very rigid Western systems are more difficult, but even Eastern systems now are arguably worse. So it's talking out my ass. We find ourselves in a very difficult place spiritually, and we probably will for a long time. Particularly where spirits relate to other spirits. But anyway, that's what I wanted to do with this. I'm going to try it out, feel it out. I'm crawling blindly in the dark, so instead of like this rigid, wonderful idea I have, that can be the guiding star, the direction I feel I head towards. But there's no way it can happen. It's not going to happen. Um, it's just, it's one of those ideals, like what I've tried to do with other comics. Oh, that's a massively lost art. And again, if we found ourselves in politics where we had to actually sit with these people and not just watch them tear each other apart. I mean, it's just blood sports. Politics is just blood sports now, instead of actually trying to like improve humanity's position on a world with nearly infinite abundance. Um, we would rather watch the gladiators chop off each other's arms, right? We would certainly rather watch that. Yeah, it's more of a spectacle. It's instant gratification. You're the Schadenfreude. Oh, it's not me. When in politics, actually, it is you. You're putting gladiators in a ring that you need peacemakers and creative souls and gentleness. Not entirely. You need warriors, not fighters. Again, I was trying to articulate that idea before. We keep getting fighters when we need warriors. There will always be times where you have to forcefully disagree with another soul. There are some souls that will never get along. That's just how this is built. And sometimes one is exceedingly dark and very lost, and there's nothing else that can be done. It's a sad fact. It's one of those things you grow up to learn. When I was a kid, my first big ideal dream was, this is before I understood the number of people, the complications of people and things, but the first thing was, I want to be friends with everybody. I want to be the first person to do that. Back when when you're a kid and you could dream, I want to be president. I want to be these big things. Before experience and reality shows you it's more complicated. It never tells you can't. That's the beautiful grace of it all. But it's more complicated.
Politics blood sport, it's our personal shadow allowing entrance into the collective shadow.
Yep. And so, I think comics as a goofy, artistic, wonderful medium. Art itself is a necessity of mankind, but it's not one for survival, right? If you strip away everything else, you have the ability to apply force, which can be used as hunting or defense, right? Or thievery. And you have the ability to socialize. Those are the two big necessities of survival for humankind. Art can be an expression of either, right? It can be a delicate application of force for change, or it can be a aggressive force for socialization, right? Music in particular is great at that. In fact, it's probably the best for gathering. You will not. It's one of the beautiful magics of music is you can one of the only times in human history, besides these blood sports we're talking about, where you could get 50,000, 100,000 people in one place with a common goal, was either warfare or once we got to music. That was it. Warfare in terms of political or ideological warfare, or music. You don't get 100,000 people showing up to view a single picture at the same time. You'll get it over time, sure, but not at the same time. They're not all looking at that, right? It's just not feasible. But music, sound waves are able to penetrate that. So it's a beautiful expression. Comics has to do it more passively, right? You don't just show up and like, hey, look at this, and a bunch of people get stoked. No. You give that individually, whether they're purchasing individually or they're connecting and finding your work individually. It's individual. They're going to a comic shop. It's individual. Music does that as well as this big gathering weirdness, right? But I don't think the creator space has to be what it is. And I don't know how to change it, but I do completely understand how to create a platform in which that is not the only truth. And I think that's at least a step forward towards changing it. Because I've been in this space for so long. The last, 5 years I've been in the public space of comics. It's been nothing but the same shit. I agree the culture war is a thing, and there are places it needs to be fought for different reasons. I get it. But weaponizing it for division instead of discussion is a loss. It's not a win. There are some places it needs to be squashed. You know, I get it. I'm not one of those kind of people. I don't need to squash shit. These other people's ideas, they don't matter to me that much. But, you know, it's your kid. You're fighting for your kid, or you're fighting for your family, or you're fighting for, you know, whatever perspective. You're fighting for yourself in a lot of cases, right? I can't judge that. I don't, again, your adventure is your adventure. But mine doesn't need that. Except for this, right? This is the work, what I call it. There are places that play. Give me a second. It's a quote from Sakamoto, which I'm so glad that's getting an English release. I can't talk. It's the best piece of sequential art I've ever read. But this creator, one of his quotes at the beginning of his book, and it's important. And I've shared it many times because it's important. I don't know how many people it resonate with, but it's important. Let me load it. I got a million things to go down here. Because I have way too many bookmarks, but there's a reason for that. I need to be reminded of some things. Cherokee prayer there, for instance. That's kind of important for perspective. Let's keep going though. Oh god, it is way down there. You know, to be fair, the loss of the recluse, quote unquote, is kind of echoes the loss of Cactus Coyote, the first go, and still ended up getting that out there and done, and it's doing its work. So that's, you know, oh god, I have so many great quotes on this. I saved so many. When love rules, there's no will to power, and where power predominates, love is lacking. The one is the shadow of the other, and you need both. There's too much love, anybody with power wins. There's too much power, nobody with love wins. It's one of those very human battles. Anyway, that's not the quote I'm looking for, though. But it does resonate with today. Again, there's many I save, right? This Robert Louis Stevenson, life's not a matter of holding good cards, but of playing a poor hand well. That's another very human fight. Even people with good cards cannot do good fights. Here's a good one. None of these are what I'm looking for, though. Though I could not caution all, I still might want a few, or warn a few. Don't lend your hand to raise no flag atop no ship of fools. I try very hard not to be a ship of fools. And so when we lose these fights, I lose a little bit of heart because I don't know how foolish the battle I've chosen is. But there's a difference between a fool and an idealist, but the line's razor thin. So that allows me to at least remember that line is razor thin. I didn't know there was a term for this, but this is a good one. Mudita, taking delight in the happiness, success, and well-being of others. We need more of that and less jealousy. Quotes from Shaman King. Oh, there's some good stuff in here, but I'm looking for something specific. So let me see if I can get to it. Oh, there's a lot of good stuff. Stuff I've had up for years to remind me of the same points because they're important to me. And this one's very old. Here's another one that's great from Alice in Wonderland. You know what the issue is with this world? Everyone wants a magical solution to the problem, and everyone refuses to believe in magic. And that's my problem. Is why what I was talking about, why the pipe can't exist. It's a form of magic. Nobody wants to believe in it. All it takes is belief in it exists. That's what magic is. That's what these artistic forms are. You have a belief. It matters. Here it is. Finally found it. From Sakamoto Shinichi. That's his name. That resonated with some folks. 40 retweets. I'll take it. The path I've selfishly chosen for myself is a rough, uneven road. I tripped again and again, got stuck in the mud, and crouched down, unable to walk forward. And when that happened, someone reached their hand out to me. So now, I call out to my juniors that are struggling, like people used to do for me. He meant it quite literally with how manga works, right? The different, they're a very mentorship, apprenticeship built society. So it's just like naturally how it works in every basically form of business. It's how they've learned to survive. And it's got its shadow, and it's a dark fucking shadow, but this is one of the lights of it, right? For me, it's the work. There are so many times where a piece of art, a certain perspective that someone put hard work into creating, and that reality had deemed, how can I say it? I don't want to use the term worthy. Reality had made sure, I don't even want to use that because it might have just been chaos. That reality had found its way to sharing with me as well, I guess is the closest articulation I can to this idea. And that art had saved my life. And so that's what I do with my work. And I have noticed very often, particularly with other creators, and this is why I've consistently been worried about the round table, or whatever I want to call it. I like the term round table because of the King Arthur connotations and why he established a round table that goes alongside the passing of the pipe in a circle, right? It's we're here for this general idea. Together, we're here for this general idea, right? You can call me king, but at this table, we're all the same, right? That idea. I could be the chief, but I'm not standing taller than you in this circle. It's that concept. So far, I haven't come up with a better name for it. But it's this idea, right? And that it doesn't have to be the way it is. At the same time, I know my perspective is clouded by my experience. I'm not going to use the term clouded. That's not correct. It's colored by my experience. Because it may not be cloudy. It can be very clear. But it is... what I see is not what I like. Right? It's not what I think would be beneficial. But for it's going to mute the music, sorry. But for this to... oh, it's not. Okay. For this to be a success, I don't know. I have to try it, first off. So this is assumptions. But I need larger creators, right? I need people who already have platforms. I've seen no other, in my experience, I found no other pathway to exposure but this. No other pathway to exposure but that concept besides the aggressive approach, the deceptive approach, those approaches. So that's why I say no others, because it's not an option for me. But so it doesn't exist to me. But it does exist. So it's dishonest not to present it to you folks. Is the drama approach, the attacking approach, the suck up approach, the sycophant approach is more accurate. The sycophant approach doesn't usually work, by the way, folks, unless somebody has a really weak ego and they just really need to be fed and you're just really good at it. Like, that's the only time that works. I've seen it occur for years now with certain people to other people, and it doesn't work for them, and yet they keep doing it. It's the definition of insanity, as Einstein would have said. It's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. It's like, oh, this time it'll work. And stroke him right this time, right? And then he'll notice me.
Said. Well, looks like Indiegogo 1T let us off until the ride is finished.
No shit? Oh, because they collected the money, I guess.
We will build a round table and a hall about the table and a castle about the hall.
As you said, right? Like a pathway to it, and then a protective structure around it. That's the goal, right? Again, that was the Avalon ideal, right? Building Avalon, building it is a silly place. Building oh God, Camelot. That's the concept of Camelot, right? He wanted to build something greater than Rome. And conceptually, I think in a way he did. Rome was very cruel. It had some great ideas, but it was terrible in so many ways. Just devaluing other people is one of its greatest darknesses. Camelot did the same thing as a feudalism, right? Like, but again, the Monty Python thing, Lake Lady handing out swords, no way to hold the government. It's still better than an oligarchy, right? By chance, him pulling a sword out of the stone, this young man was still, that level of meritocracy is still better than an oligarchy, a heretical. What's the, not heretical? It's the same kind of word though. It's the same Latin root as heritage. Hereditary. That's the word I was looking for. Hereditary oligarchy, which is what we've dealt with in mankind for the last, basically since we've had civilization instead of tribes, instead of tribalism, and very basic human tribalism. And even then, it was usually hereditary because the chief would only train their son. Right, it's very similar. The son would inherit that role. So even then, hereditary oligarchies are one of our biggest battles, and switching to meritocracy, and not even switching to a meritocracy, but providing a society in which a meritocracy is even possible, right? Power perpetuates its own power, and again, we showed that Carl Jung quote, where wealth and power is there, love lacks. Where love is there, power lacks. And so I don't think there's a win there, but there is probably that flow state, which we're also talking about today, that balance that allows divine will, if you want to call it divine will, or allows expression to pop out, exists. But what I want for this creator roundtable is that. And somebody even called me, a veteran. And I never think of myself that way, but I guess I've been in this long enough. I can. But again, I reach out to my juniors as I was. There have been many of you. Some of you might even still be here in chat that have reached out when I had fallen in the mud. And pulled me up. So it's what I want to do with this platform as well. And I want to provide a space that is exceedingly welcoming to everyone. I don't find that space anywhere in indie comics. Most of them, at the very least, come from what can you do for me? Comes from survival. Um, then I get it. I'm not saying that's a terrible way to set up your space. Again, we have limited time. How we spend that time determines a lot of things for us as living beings. But I think that, again, it's not the let's quote Miyamoto Musashi again. You must understand there is more than one path up the mountain. And I would very much like to clear a new path. And it's not even new. I think it's a very old and unused path. But it's been tread many, many times. It's the path that has gotten us to a point where we aren't killing each other over what we each have, to the same degree we were, at least at the civilian level. At the hereditary oligarchy level, that will never go away. That's their burden. It's a great Tolkien quote about that came up too that I have. It's about Smaug. I think it's from The Hobbit. With the rage is how it starts, but let's see if I can find it. It's a good one, and I wish I committed more of these to memory, but that's why I save them. It's because my memory isn't that clear. That's a good Tolkien quote too. It's from The Two Towers, though. I'm looking for Hobbit. Come on. Good illustration of Smaug as well. There's a great Hemingway quote. I mean, that's the impetus of the work right there. That's from Two Towers as well. There's some good in this world. It's worth fighting for. It's a beautiful, fucking succinct and precise quote. And there's the concept of community again. You'll see a theme with the things I save. The concept of Ubuntu. I am because we are. Beautiful. If you have some time, you can read and see what Ubuntu is. But if there's only one apple, and we were able to get it from the tree, we will share it together, even though it was done for me. That kind of deal. But I will find it. Here's one I don't tend to share because it's been colored with different perspectives that I do not agree with. But I do agree with this statement taken as it is. I have sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man. That's part of why I do the work. These darknesses exist, and they exist in here, and they do not need to. But this flag, this person, they have connotations which have flares of honesty to them that I agree with, that color it a different color than what it is at face value, which I do believe. But let me go up to that quote still. The concept of the spiral and the loop, which I presented in my work, which matters quite. Here it is. When we're talking about hereditary hierarchies.
Laguna Munta.
Tolkien put it beautifully.
Said, there are things that go bump in the night. We are the ones who bump back.
Exactly. But his rage passes description. The sort of rage that is only seen when rich folk that have more than they can enjoy suddenly lose something that they have long had but have never before used or wanted. If Tolkien understood that back when, right, that's where hereditary oligarchies form and why they take the colors they do. The tones they do, they take the actions they do. It's this very specific and precise flavor of greed.
Laguna Munta.
Mixed with pride.
Said,
mixed with insecurity.
Read that again.
His rage passes description, the sort of rage that is only seen when rich folk that have more than they can enjoy suddenly lose something that they have long had but have never before used or wanted. That's the battle we've been fighting for a very long time. Very, very long time. Is when that power, that will to power, gathers so much that it becomes insecure about itself because it is being fought on every angle, right?
Laguna Munta.
And it even ignores these
Said.
things.
Wow.
So that quote, that precision that Tolkien had, that's the thing. Articulation, precision. That's the gift of expression that language gives us. Now, we don't always have that ability, and so that's where art comes in. Art fills in those gaps of precision that language cannot. Music will do it. Comics will do it, and that's what I'm decent at. I'm not that great of a writer. I have a very unique voice that I appreciate greatly, but not that precise. The tone, the expressions that, I'm going to call it my team, but the team are able to present is so much more precise than anything I can put out. Tolkien was very precise. Very smart individual with language. Very much understood the type of communication which he wished to express, and then applied will and practice to refine it so that it could be more true to what he intended. And that's that concept right there, which describes Smaug, which artists are occultists, whether they agree with it or not, and occultists, that's another term that is colored in so many different ways that both have truth, ugly truth. But the symbol of the dragon is one of the purest expressions of power mankind's come up with. It's very precise, the expression of a dragon. It's that reptilian, gnashing teeth and fire breath, right? There's a reason why that concept had popped up in many cultures, whether you want to go to the ancient alien kind of concept or you just want to go with the reptilian brain manifesting its strength. There's so many different ways you can, and I think they're probably all true, that you can trace to its source. The source doesn't matter so much as again, its precision and understanding its precision. And so Smaug and this concept, that's part of it, right? And this is a children's book. This is a children's book. He made sure it was precise and that it was plain. It was clear language. It was something a child could understand because this concept is important to understanding how power works in this world. That's why he chose the Hobbit. It's not even a person. It's basically, well, it is a person. It's a child-sized individual taking these things on. This beautiful soul made these works, and so when they're used by these different, by the power he's talking about here, it's rough. It breaks my heart. There's so many heartbreaks in artistry when it comes to finances. It's unbelievably sad. And so I see it within even these small expressions that don't need to have it, and I want to do something about it. So that's where I found myself after losing a job where I took care of the waste, what society considers waste. Veterans are another expression of that darkness that society throws away and likes to pretend it doesn't throw away, right? Likes to ignore that it throws that away. And I could take great heart in knowing that I was not throwing it away. Now I take heart that I worked in a place that was not throwing it away. It was very difficult to face every day, but that mattered. So that's the heartbreak I'm dealing with. So I had to pivot to something else. And what I see in independent art, independent crowdfunding, independent whatever, I can't tell you the amount of incredible talent I have found that is being thrown away. No other way to say it. And not by that individual. They are struggling. I feel like I'm getting thrown away quite often in terms of art, right? The attention isn't there. The engagement isn't there. The support isn't there. But I'm not the only one. And I see it all around. And whether or not I think I'm doing well, I'm doing better than many. And so, in one way, I want to be able to lift up folks, but my platform isn't strong enough to do that. Not by much. I can do something. Again, it's dealing with a percentage of a percentage of a percentage of a problem, just like in my old gig. People are pouring their hearts and souls out, and they are being tossed away. They're being ignored. They're being, these beautiful expressions. Comics does that at the mainstream level. They toss away their talent. They pay them as little as possible for as much work as possible. And it's just the reality. Exactly. And so you work harder to build it, and you hope that, again, some angels, quote unquote, and I will always use that term because it's the most precise I have found. You can call them guardians as well, but that has different connotations as well. But that positive reality conspires to teach you, but I think if you're learning the lessons, it also can conspire to quote unquote protect you. That again, that's a bit. So I don't know, folks. I just wanted to talk about heart and all of these relatively, disparate, separated, slightly disconnected ideas. They are contained in the same concept for me. It's the heart of why I do this work. And so I'm going to keep going. Again, this stupid roundtable thing, and I call it stupid. It's not. It's important. I don't have much faith that it'll gain any traction. If it's much like the rest of the work I've done on this platform, it's very unlikely. But can it do the work it needs to do? I won't know till I try it. Will it be worth the effort? To learn, absolutely. I've been wanting to do this for years. Because every fucking show I went on was tribal. And I got so sick of it. I got so sick of it. It's so soul draining for me as a person. You want to talk about all these things that divide us and hurt us and why you want to go against it and blah, 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 instead of I'm there. And what sold my book, what's worked for me is sharing my passion and my love and my heart. Those two things ain't compatible. They're not as compatible as I've had to force them to be to continue the work. So I'd very much like a platform in which that doesn't work, where I can actually just market other people's books, my own stuff. I'd love to make, I don't need, that's the other bit too, is I don't need much. My perspective on finances is, and Laguna has a wonderful song about it, by the way. And it's not just about it, it's about the whole concept overall. But there's a line in it that's, I just need enough to get by. I just want to, I believe that's money, people, if I'm correct. That's my concept with money. The more I have, the worse I feel in almost every case. That's why it bleeds from me, but it always is used as a source of energy to take care of things. And again, me not taking care of myself is part of that, right? It's I have to hoard this amount to make sure I'm taken care of. I need to go see this. I need to make sure I can get to work. I need to make sure all these different things. And all of that is finances. So you need finances. So what are you going to do to sacrifice for it? And I'm very tired on that. I'm very tired of that.
I just like to keep things together. That's good enough for me.
That's it. Again, precision. I remember the idea and how I took the idea more than the precision of the words. And the precision of the words is very important. That's the one. I just like to keep things together. That's the term I was trying to think of. That's good enough for me as well. That's all I've ever wanted. The more I have, the more complicated and annoying and soul draining the things are. At the same time, you look at this mountain. How much energy do you need to climb it? And finances is the fuel in this society. In the battle I am given, it is the fuel. I can throw myself into the fire as hard as I want, but I'm only so much fuel. So I have to figure out how to use that personal energy to gain a more potent fuel. It's like I'm trying to fuel a fire that needs to be burning hot and quick with wood instead of gasoline, right? I'm using the wrong fuel. In fact, I'm using myself, which is unsustainable. In fact, that was my old gig. It was completely unsustainable, whether I want to admit it or not. I had an infinite well to draw from in terms of willpower, but not an infinite fuel in terms of my physical body, my emotional well-being, my mental well-being, the perspective it consistently gave me, the amount of pain I have to bear. I did not have that infinitely, but the situation itself provided infinite will. So I could very well have destroyed myself at that job, and I was well aware of that, especially whenever I would talk to my friends about it. What would come up was me venting some of the pain that was in the back of the mind from just applying will so fucking hard to improve a powerfully hard situation. So it's good. I'm taking the good with the bad, and I need to find a place where that infinite will could apply, but it also doesn't take everything I have. I don't remember. There's another quote I've saved that's give often, but don't let it empty you.
I was worried you'd give too much of yourself.
Oh, I'm sure I did. It's why the heartbreak is so much. It's also a little selfish, right? Because I felt good. So yeah, I most certainly did, and I'm still gonna. I can't just walk away from that, but I have to rest. I have to be able to come back at it, not with heartbreak, but with a will to improve things again from the position I now find myself in. So it is what it is. But I also do need to find a way. If I can't get the fuel through this work, which it seems it's not possible, I need currently possible. It might not be possible at all because what my work is. It's just it is such a antithetical concept compared to how financial systems work. It's so antithetical to that it may not be possible. Then I need to find a way to support it and do it for myself and for others through something that is possible. And I'm not an educated individual. I'm not a connected individual. And so I've been quite disheartened by my job search. I have not found a single fucking thing that would come even close to getting me that willpower I need to actually go do a job for money. It might have to come down to you can't pay your bills next month, Cody. It might have to come to that. And even then, it's going to be soul crushing. And then where's my energy going to be to do the things that matter? So I don't know.
Those sound like green flags to me.
So I don't know. So I'm trying this because it's important, but I don't think it worked. yeah. If I was less kind, I'm not brainwashed. But both of those things, right? But there are good people out there. There are good things to learn out there. And when I talk about education or I talk about networking, I'm also talking about I'm not connected to good people in powerful places. And there are those. Whether or not there are many, there are those. I have met many of those, but I do, right now I'm connected to a good person in a position that is at least able to provide me energy that keeps my family with a roof over their head comfortably. I've had to make, I'm eating a lot more ramen, and that's not fun physiologically. But they've got their food. Geralt's got his medicine. I do have food, right? I have a roof over my head. I can pay for the electricity. I can pay for the internet to be able to provide this work. Those things I can still take care of. And it's not on a massively ticking clock because of this gig, right? I do have those connections. I don't want to sound ungrateful for that, because as soon as I do, that's when it'll remind you, hey, you lost your gratitude. You didn't fucking maintain this. And I do that a lot with my friends as well. I'm too easily comfortable in isolation, again, because that concept I developed in my youth that I was making things harder for people just by being around them. I think that comes from my parents, which, they made things harder on each other just by being around each other, but at the same time, it was a worthy fight. And so, as a kid, you don't understand, you don't have the perspective to see the worthy fight part of it. So you ingrain in yourself just this, be away from it, like, it's okay. You might not like yourself that much, but it's still better than making it harder on others, right? So I that's gonna be my fight for a very, 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 very long time. But at the same time, I got the one go, and it's not like I'm not creative enough to see opportunities, right? And so again, doing the round table, see how that goes. I can't expect instant success, and if I'm honest, I don't expect any success. What I expect is to learn something. Crawling in the dark, but I feel some warmth that way. So I'm going to head towards the warmth and see if it is an actual light and can brighten things, or if it's just a momentary respite and a place to rest while I wait for whatever is coming my way. It's patience. We don't have much time, but sometimes the only thing we have to do with our time is wait. And that is a very painful position to be in.
Said, float like a leaf.
That's the big goal. That's the hope. And just hope I don't hit any rocks. And life is showing me the rocks, and I'm like, well, I can't really do anything about that right now. Am I going to hit it? And that's a rough position to be in. It's super stressful. And I don't deal with stress well. It hits my that raw nerve that I always exist as very, very difficultly, and then that manifests in a bunch of different emotional states that are not fun. And then I don't rest, and then I end up in a worse position. It's a lot of perpetuating cycles that I do break from time to time, but it's hard to break when you're in them. So we'll see. I'm gonna be patient, and grateful, and hope something works out. The animal shelter job was when I had my last straw. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna be able to pay bills soon. I can still work with animals. I'll give it a go. What's the worst that's going to happen? And the first 2 days of it were just nightmarish. But I was like, well, it's not a hard job in terms of like task by task. And I do see I can do some good here. And so that manifested in a year of the most, like, I'm going to use the term beautiful work I've ever done. It was very simple things. Very simple, wonderful things. But I don't even have that last straw anymore, right? Like that was it. I was like, well, I can't see anything else, so I'm gonna try this. Right now, I don't see anything. Period. The opportunities I have as a non-educated, non-connected individual are very... people would use the term menial. I think that's disrespectful. But again, it's not something that can get me out of bed. Even if there's a paycheck attached to it, right? Even if it's like survival attached to it, I don't know if that'll be enough. The only reason I was able to pull that bit on the shelter gig was because it had something else to it. It wasn't because I needed the money. Uh, it was because I needed the money and I could do good. It wasn't just this. And I haven't seen anything, any work there that's not just, well, you need the money. There's one, but it has to deal with people and people in a rough position. And I don't even think I could, get it. And even if I did, I don't think it's something I could deal with. It's taking on even more of a burden than the animal gig. And animals I know how to communicate with. People, maybe, but there's too much chaos attached to people. And people in that position that it's more dangerous, which is crazy because I was bit and I still. Do you see this? Do you see it? Yeah, that black mark. Yeah, that's from last
Always
week.
try to find inoffensive jobs that one T crushed my soul, something that pays and affords me time and peace of mind.
Exactly, and I have not found that again. Like the ballooning gig, it paid so well. I was out in nature and it was physical. So I've looked at that. There's some like forestry cutting gigs. But my vehicle's not working well enough to go out to the forest every day. And I don't know if I'd make enough money to be able to replace. I find myself in a lot of chaos that's not crushing, but again, I'm looking at the rocks down that river, and I'm just like, oh, God, can I survive getting past them while I wait for time to flow and get me, So I don't know. That's been rough and stressful. So I'm trying to do good. I'm trying to do, again, crawl in the dark to see if I can find something to ground myself, because the platform on which I stood upon I had to step off of. And I'm trying not to beat myself up from it because it was not of my own doing that I was forced away from it. Not at all. Which, in fact, I tried very, very hard to honor that position in the last few bits. And I don't even know if it was like flailing, right? I don't know how it was perceived. I hope it was good. Nobody else was doing anything else. People have followed my comic work and have followed this channel for the last couple months know that I did ask for art pieces. So what I did is I tried to make an expression of gratitude, because I'm not the only one who lost my job there. I'm not the only one who probably feels this heartbreak about it. And so I was trying to provide a sense of gratitude. Come to think of it, I had dreams about this year and a half ago, maybe. It was a long while ago before I started this gig. I had dreams about that. Just connected to it. But it was about gratitude and about this expression, and then about me being like one of the sources of anger I had with it the last time I went there. Yeah, it still pisses me off. But nonetheless, it is what it is, and I think it was probably a good thing I got forced out of it before I completely burnt out and had nothing left, even though from my willpower perspective I could have gone forever. They were worth every bit of draining. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to find a job that is fulfilling as that, but I need something that has some sense of fulfillment to it, and I'm looking and I'm not finding it, and so I'm like, okay, let's just breathe. Maybe you'll find a place later. And so I'm trying to create that space of fulfillment so that maybe I'll be more capable of taking something less fulfilling, because it's here, right? It still exists. Even if it's not crossed together, it still exists. So we'll see. If that works, great. Yay. But from where I stand right now, it does not. And that is a great hole in my heart that, the wind blows through, use that concept. That is making the heartache that much harder to bear. But, whatever. I get to vent. I have a platform to vent. I've been venting for like 2.5 hours. So thank you folks for bearing with me on all of this. I share it because it's important to me and it's good for me to talk. I am a exceedingly lonely individual. And so if I just bear it like that, and then I don't, what my childhood self would call it, if I don't inflict myself on others in a passive manner, at least, it's not active, you don't have to be here and watch this, then it's just going to fester. It's just going to get bad. So, yeah, thank you. That's what this is for. Whether or not it's successful in the societal blueprint box, the societal framework, the concept of success that is general within society, within civilization. It doesn't matter so much. It's very successful in what I need it to be. My work in comics is that as well, but it needs to be more.
Great stream today. Please feel free to inflict yourself on me anytime you need throw. I'm here.
I know. I love you, brother. I do very much. Very much. It's just it becomes difficult. It becomes very, very difficult. I'm not. Again, I'm a bit too. So I've been listening to psychology, particularly because of modern psychologists, because of how young men are growing up. And this has been a thing forever, but we're taught to fix our own problems, right? And not to reach out anymore, because again, independence is one of our greatest valued aspects in society, because independence provides value.
I love you, and so do all the rest of our crew.
Yeah, I know very much so. But it's I value independence not only because society instilled it upon me, but because that's who I am. You want to provide value, right? You want to be a pillar on which others can push forward. But with that, right, you look at it, it's like, well, I can't do that. Well, somebody else is willing to do that for you right now. We all have those times. And admitting that weakness is difficult when you already are feeling weak from so many other perspectives. My God, the first GoFundMe that was run, I didn't set it up. Dollar Coins is like, no, I'm going to do this for you. He didn't even really ask. He had it set up. He's like, check this out. I was like, okay, and did it, and it a little dramatic, but it saved my life in terms of like where my finances were, where my head was. I keep finding myself, and a lot of spiritual traditions will say this, but you find yourself, you repeat the lesson until you learn it. It's hard to learn the lesson when you don't know what it is, or maybe you do know what it is, but your knowledge is incorrect. And I keep finding myself in cycles of tragedy, let's call it, in cycles of we were talking about this earlier, in being a loser, quote unquote. That concept is the best. I don't believe that. I don't think that one bit. But that's the closest concept. Again, it's the most precise I can hit on the target. It's not a bullseye. It's where a bad thing will happen, and then another bad thing, 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 and then I survive it. And then I find myself in a position where it's stable. It's not great. I'm still going through a bunch of heartache or what have you in the work, but I'm stable. And then now I find myself in again where it's just like wham, boom, 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 test, 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 and it's really hard to. The lesson I see is, well, you need more financial independence. Okay, that's okay. that's the knowledge, that's the solution, that's the band-aid, whatever the fuck. It's the suture for the wound. But I don't know what the lesson is. Like that's the solution. That's not the lesson. I don't know what the lesson is. The lesson might just be like, here's levels of pain. Bear them. Maybe it's like weightlifting. It's just trying to make you stronger for whatever, right? If that's the case, it's certainly been doing that for a good chunk, and I think a lot of people experience that. They experience those cycles. Can't wait for this one to be done. I have to have faith it will be done too, and that's rough.
Unsolicited advice: keep pursuing what is meaningful.
That's what I'm doing. Hopefully it works, but you still have to bear with the. We're going to use the stream analogy. The cold, very cold water, very very cold. It's not comfortable to be in. And the sun I felt on the front of that leaf that faces the sky is very cloudy. It's also not as warm. It's still the daylight, right? So I still see that. I still have plenty of that, but like it's the positive forward momentum is just, it's not there. It's just getting colder and colder. And I hope it doesn't. Again, crawling towards the light and crawling towards where I think there might be warmth. And if there is, great, even if it's just for some time. But all of these factors conspire for a lack of rest, and I think the only way I'll have any energy to face any of this is rest. And so you have to go with the flow to rest, but if you go with the flow, you have to have faith. And I have great faith. Many different things. But faith is the only word that's coming to mind isn't, again, it's not a bullseye, it's not that precise, but it's a burden, it's a weight, it's a responsibility. That's closer. Still not a bullseye. And it becomes harder to carry the more you have to. The more it's the platform on which you stand on, and the shakier everything else is, I guess. And I think that's people can empathize with that, I think. But yeah, so I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm streaming more. Again, reality's thrown me a couple bones recently to remind me, like, it's okay. It's okay. So I gotta keep my eyes out for that. That's that when the cloud passes for a second and I do feel the warmth on the leaf, right? Going down the stream. I gotta make sure I appreciate and I'm grateful for that, because that warmth can linger a lot longer if you are. And I don't just focus on the cold. Yeah, we'll see. Again, patience. That's the hard bit, because patience and faith, important. Just both of them are very heavy loads to carry. I think that's maybe even closer. I wanted to use the word package, but that felt so cold and almost commercial, right? Using the word package. Load is closer. Yeah. And I have to, as you said, pursue what's meaningful. And there's been quite a few different ideas I've kicked around for a long time back the head that are meaningful. And I'm trying one of them. There's another one I should sit down and do, because it could also be meaningful, and it is part of the grieving process I'm having with this heartbreak of losing this gig. I don't think a lot of people maybe experience that the same way, but this was the way you survived that kind of gig is with love. It's not romantic love, but it is love. So of course, when that's severed, there's heartbreak. And it took me, it's been 3 weeks or so now, it took me that long to even understand it as heartbreak.
Laguna Munta said,
So,
it's hard to hold the load in place when you know you have somewhere to take it, the weight of it grows.
yes. It's watching the grass grow, right? Same kind of effect that, time elongates as you're actively aware of it. So this is, yeah, exactly. There's a lot, again, I was talking about the fractal nature of these things. And so a lot of different scales. And that's why the patience is so difficult, because the time feels longer, because the time is more important, because I'm hyper aware of it, because I don't have these tasks to do that allow me to coast through it. That's also why when I was working this gig, the time went by very quickly, because I wasn't so hyper aware of it. I had a mission, I had a duty, I had these things to do. So, I could ramble for probably hours more, and I have. I probably expressed these same concepts many, many times, because as I've said, and I keep saying again, or as I've said, because I repeat things. They're important to me, and I don't fully grasp them, or they're not something that I should step away from, maybe. I don't know. I'm grateful. Thank you, folks, for joining me. I don't think I have anything else to say. We are not closing The Recluse, apparently. So if you guys would like to check it out, we do have the 5-page preview live on Indiegogo. Another madman has lent his talents and wonderful friends and team to the overarching project of IronVerse Comics and what it means. So if you have time, read the 5-page preview if you'd like. We have more pages. Maybe we'll do something with that. The first Creator Roundtable is at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time this Saturday. We'd love to see you there. The more folks that are there, the more they can listen to these wonderful creators I have lined up. And the general concept is going to be, I think I'm going to lean into it, because the only thing that came to me is, what do comics mean to you? I want very general concepts that are more philosophical and less rigid, and easy to have an aggressive stance behind and fight for. That's one of the ways I can make that metaphorical pipe, is by keeping the topics one way you don't want to snap it and throw it at the individual, right? And I think this one's important, because they mean a lot of different things for people. Some people, it allows them to hit that flow state and escape things. For others, it's a way of sharing themselves. For many, maybe it's a path towards financial independence. Like, there's a lot of things it can be that none of them are wrong. So that's what the topic's going to be. We're going to try it. I don't know if Scott's still here. If he is, since the campaign's still running, I'd love to have you, but don't feel obligated. We can take this more passively, just so we can kind of breathe and let it do what it needs to do, brother, whether that's fail on its own or maybe an opportunity to come up. I don't know. But if you folks check out The Recluse, it is meaningful. I would love to have this feel less like a ship of fools that I'm captain of, and more like an underdog crew that can snatch a victory from the jaws of defeat, which we have done multiple times. I'd like to be reminded of that. That's always it's an amazing feeling. But it's going to be what it's going to be. I think we need to try a little less hard. I think the flailing in the river is just exerting energy nobody involved has. So we'll see. I'm not going to give up. I'm just, again, let's go back to Musashi again, because it provided some great perspective for me. Is the term he uses for the flow state is right action. Right action comes effortlessly. That's the flow state. And I think trying to force this right action has caused quite a draining of everything. It's a waste of energy, which is a swordsman, a warrior, somebody who's going to get killed, overexertion guarantees death. Right? Another quote for him is fluidity is the path of life, rigidity is the path of death. And so effort can be rigid, whether or not it's change and it's will. It can be very, very rigid. Being stubborn is the pathway to death. It can be very important in some cases, but when it's important, it's because it's right action, not because you want to force something to happen, right? And I think I needed that reminder. So we'll see how things go. I'd very much appreciate checking this out if you're interested. I would never compromise what IronVerse Comics is by putting my faith behind a creator just because. No, it's because what they and their team wish to express and have expressed with the work even so far is important, and it resonates with our overall goal. And so if anything I ever express on this channel and any of my body of work resonates with you, there will never be an aspect of it that is not part of it. I have no will for that. I have very little let's just try this. I have, oh no, that's what came, that's important. That's where I come from. I think both Scott and I, because of how tired we've been, have had difficulty selling that passion and that love. The independent comics environment right now is also unbelievably, and I love using this term because it's a great word, it's unbelievably cacophonous. It's just filled of all these different loud voices and sounds, and just, it's chaotic as fuck. Bouncing off, and so it's very hard to be heard. And so how I've been heard in that in the past was wonderful people giving me a platform, those veterans lifting me up, or those who are veterans in their field, whether it's, podcasting or what have you, giving me a platform to express my honest and enthusiastic passion. And not everybody can do that. Not every creator can articulate that outside of the body of work. I can, because that's where my stubbornness comes from. It's like, no, I very clearly have my lines. This is what. Like, I spend much time thinking about it and reducing it to concepts which resonate even stronger than the original ignitions to me. And that's what I sell, is those concepts. And then I try and give you a very professional and beautiful piece of work for it. Doing that for somebody else's work, even if it's part of my own, is a new challenge that I have faced a couple times, but not to the same degree I faced with this project. And some of it might be because my tank has been dry for a long time in terms of energy, so I can dig into that infinite will that spurs me forward, that passion, that undeniable rock on which I will stand and face reality. But it's a little different because my manifestation of that is Jag, and so I can tie it into all these different things. I can't speak from the heart. I can't speak from somebody else's heart, is the way to put it. I can speak to what I see in it. I can speak to the clear talents. I can speak to the bravery. I can speak to so many different things that I admire and enjoy about it, and that'll resonate with some folks. But it's not the same magic I use to sell mine. And that magic I use to sell mine has been tarnished by my inability to manage the project in a professional manner, in terms of returning the energy and faith that backers have placed in me in a timely timely manner. And so that also has kind of that rock that I will stand apart and face reality. Yes, it's not as when I look down on it, it's not as bright, it's not as clear. I can feel it under my feet, but I don't see it as much, and so it's harder to describe, and even harder still to describe something that's reflecting in it, right? And hopefully that will pass. Um, I had a similar difficulty with Cactus Coyote when we first ran that campaign a while ago. A long while, those years now. And that got out, and people are enjoying that, which is wonderful. He really undersells the resonance that people have with his work. Dollar Coins does, and I cannot wait to talk to him again in January. I'm hoping the military treats him well and that it doesn't get out of hand very quickly. I'm very worried about that end. I was worried as soon as he said it, but the discipline, the structure, the physicality, all those different things, he feels those will do good for him. The brotherhood probably as well. So all those things are positives in something I very much see as a negative called the military-industrial complex. But just because I disagree with that part of it doesn't mean I can't see the beauty and hope the best. So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. We've got over 2 weeks. First Creator Roundtable, Saturday at 6 p.m. MST. We'll see how that goes. We've got some wonderful creators lined up. We've got some wonderful backup creators lined up just in case something happens. So again, Scott, if something comes up or you don't feel like it because you'd like to breathe from this, don't worry about it. Again, somehow I was able to put 40 people into a tiny space that honestly many of them would highly, highly disagree with each other on many, many, many things. And they haven't torn each other apart yet. So we'll see in a smaller kind of center how that works. Who knows? I will likely also be opening up more creator interviews. I did one with Manny Shapes of El Crudo not too long ago. It's on the same stage, as it were, but it's set up a little bit differently. I also figured out how to get the Discord bubbles up, and I figured out a couple things since Manny was my very gracious and very patient guinea pig on that front. Oh, sorry, phone. And so we will see, how I can go on that. I'd love to do more creator interviews. I think they're great. I also found and yeah, shoot me, but when you only have so much energy, any tool can be good, and this isn't one that's stealing from anybody else, so I'm fine with it. Found an AI program called Opus Clip that will take a long form stream, particularly like an interview or whatever, and then clip it into segments, title it, theme it, and not all of them are great, but I was impressed with quite a few of them. And I think that'll work good. I'm planning to do that, use that program on the Creator Roundtable and see what it comes up with. That way the channel has consistent content in the form of shorts every day. I can only do it once a month on the free plan, but if it's worth it, I might throw the money into a year subscription for it. We'll see. So far, the first clip I put up, most shorts on YouTube do significantly better than my actual channel content. But then I got throttled. It's like noticeable. Like YouTube didn't even put like a round number on it. It's like once this hits 100 views, stop showing it. There's a couple things like that. Or this hits 600 views, stop showing it. And not like 601 or 613 and then it stopped. No, it literally pulled it from the algorithm at this number, which is wild to me that it does that. So we'll see. Again, I would love more. I want success for channels so that I can again lift others up, and it would be good to be able to take care of myself in some way. I don't expect to like monetize the channel or anything. I just like a bigger platform so that I can actually have other folks' energy on the channel and get views and utilize that energy to help myself and help others. And most of what I've done on this channel is selfish. It's good. And there is an altruistic component to it in that sharing my experiences may be able to help others. But the overall idea is like, no, I just need to be out there. And the other bit is I always wanted to be available to folks, particularly when I have used their money to make my work and they have not received a project yet or a product yet. Right now, theoretically, and so far, it looks like there have been some errors. Domestic fulfillment of Jack number 4 should be done in terms of the books. The standees, it'd only be like $80 to $90 to get them done, so I can do it once I know there's some kind of income coming in, and that $80-$90 won't be like, well, I gotta get my dog's meds, right? That kind of deal. That's why I'm so pissed off now too, is because I can take some risks with what money I have saved and finish this Jack campaign or what have you, so I can run another one. But then it's a month, 2 months out before I could even get any, and that's if the campaign's successful, before I get any income from it, and I would be broke the entire time, and that means I don't survive, right? So that's not a battle I could fight even if I wanted to. My truck's fuel pump could be anywhere from $400 to $1,500, which, again, can't do that. My property taxes, I paid half of them at the beginning of the year because I'm not an idiot, but the other half comes due, I think, this month as well. Well, not due, but they bill you for it, and then, you can push it for a year, but I never want that. I don't like our society and our system, so I'm happy to get it off my back as soon as fucking possible and get it out of my mind. Fucking post office box, $83 this month. Like, there's just so many things, and they auto charge me, so I wasn't even gonna put it off. Propane, because of winter, it was the tank fee is $90, and then it's gonna be another $350 to fucking get some fuel, so I've been not using heat. Fucking neighbors are still not paying me for paying the electric bill on the well. I'm so tired with all these fights that somehow I survive but just don't end. So I would like something, again, that's what the gig allowed me to kind of like, well, I can bear it. I can carry these weights because at least I have the money to take care of that. And so right now I can't take Jack off my shoulders in that way because of, well, the money needs to be there for other things, for survival. So we'll see. All of this can change in an instant. You never know what may grace your life from any minute to minute. Hell, you never know if you'll survive the next minute. We take it for granted because it's very hard to live in a constant state of existential dread. But honest truth is, yeah, you never know. I don't, my health's fine, but you never know. Some shit just snaps. So we'll see. Anyway, I'll be here. I'll be around. I'll be continuing the good fight as best I can. So yeah, folks, I'll probably be back later, gaming stream or something, because it's one of those days. I just gotta hang out and clean and try and just rest. This is work, but it's again, it's that meaning, right? It's that little bit that got me out of bed. There's been some days lately that the dogs are barking. They're gonna shit in the house. They're jumping. They're trying to get me out of bed, and just like my body's like, really. It's very difficult, and was not an issue when I had work, and so that's part of the stress and all this that I didn't have before, the anxiety. And just like, oh, I gotta face another day. And I love these animals. They can't fucking feed themselves. Like, that usually was enough on the weekends to get me up and moving. But when it's every day. Anyway, we'll see. I'm staying healthy, trying to keep my perspectives. I hope I've explained. I'm trying to keep my perspectives in the green. You don't got to worry about me on that level. But it is, I'm in the middle of a maelstrom. And I'm not looking out at it. I'm trying to crawl to the eye of the storm to rest, so that on the other side of the storm, I'm strong enough to get out of it that time instead of stuck in the swirl, right? So we'll see. Appreciate you folks. Love you all. As I always say, vaya con Dios. Go with God, my friends. And I'll catch you later. Vaya con Dios and all that fun stuff, mi amigos.